It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. We know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out Podcast, episode 368. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe.
Hello.
Hello. So we're finally back in our sleep rhythms.
Ish.
Well, I mean...
You and your play.
Okay, but you can't blame that on Hawaii.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like coming back from Hawaii was easier to adjust from than getting to Hawaii.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
Because when we came back from Hawaii, it was over such an extended time frame. It was like 18 hours of travel that we catnapped. And by the time we got home, I was so exhausted, it was easy to go right to bed.
Yeah, like I feel like we went to bed earlier than normal, but we like fought through. Like we got home at like 5:30 and we didn't just go straight to bed.
No.
We stayed up till like 8
9.
o'clock or 8:30.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, now we can let ourselves fall asleep.
Yeah. And I feel like that was easier than on the Hawaii side, where it was like we were trying to stay awake until like 10 and we at the local time in Hawaii, and we really struggled. We made it to like 8.
Yeah, that was a real battle. We were just sitting there watching Golden Girls on cable, which were like mini episodes. They had like M-I-N-I.
Oh, yeah.
They had cut out so much so they could cram in commercials.
Yeah, that's right.
Where I was just like, this, I feel like they cut out the whole subplot of the episode.
They did.
It was brutal.
It was.
But that wasn't Hawaii. I think that was like Hallmark or whatever we were watching. So
absolutely.
For our Hawaiian listeners,
we are not blaming Hawaii.
We are not besmirching Hawaii.
No, we are besmirching Hallmark.
Yes. Suck it, Hallmark. So let's do our bingo call out so we don't forget.
Yes. Although this doesn't, is this right? Are you sure? This doesn't look right. No, it is. Okay.
Don't question me, woman.
Callie Gullickson, I question you, and I will continue to question you because I put things on places and you're like, well, I lost it. Where is it? Where did it go? Yeah, I will question.
Well, I think I will accept your apology.
It's not an apology.
Right. So thank you for the apology. I appreciate your humbleness.
That's good. I'm glad.
So what, pray tell, do you have in store for people this week?
Well, we have our interview with Peloton community member Jennifer Armendariz.
Yeah.
And she started Peloton back in 2020.
Okay.
She's a nurse practitioner, but this is a really fun conversation. She has had friendships that she has formed. She's also has this group of people that they have collectively gone through divorces, cancer diagnosis, aging parents, and lots of other things. They are all part of the hardcore early risers. So you get to hear all about that.
Yikes.
We also have tons of news in the Peloton. Boy, not only we have instructors leaving, we have days of live programming disappearing. People are freaking out.
Well, people freaking out is...
I mean, that's par for the course.
I don't know if that counts as news anymore.
That's fair.
That's pretty much
That's the one constant, actually.
Yes. Yeah. It used to be baseball, but now it's people freaking out.
We also have a visit from Dr. Jenn, and we are going to hear about how you go about breaking up with your therapist.
Oh, that's a good, that's a difficult thing to do, but sometimes it needs to happen.
Yeah, and also watch the socials this week because I will be posting your opportunity to ask Dr. Jenn questions.
Oh, sweet.
So look for that.
Okay.
We also have... all kinds of instructor updates. We have competitor updates, and we have a ton of things that are going on the content side, and a fun little, in case you missed it, what kind of stretch was that from the puppy?
I don't know. It was a very odd stretch.
She looked like a giraffe over here. I don't know what was
all of a sudden
happening.
I saw her head from across the room peeking up over the table. I was like, what is happening? So shameless plugs before we get to all that. Don't forget, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn. Wherever you get a podcast, you can find us. And while you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. That's super helpful. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/theclipout. You can also, of course, follow Crystal on Instagram at ClipoutCrystal.
Yeah.
So
I never get a mention up here.
No, but I figured we should throw that out there.
Yeah.
That's we focus on Facebook, but you have so many Instagram followers that
I do.
You're over there as well.
Yeah.
Also, if you like the show and you want to support it, one of the easiest ways you can do that is just sharing an episode, an article, things like that. When you see them pop up in your feed, if you think your friends and family are Peloton lovers and might care, just click share and people can see that from you. That helps us tremendously. You can also, if that's not enough, you can also check out our Patreon, patreon.com/theclipout, where it's only $5 a month and you get ad-free episodes. You get an extra episode. There's a whole other episode every week of just stuff we didn't have time to get to in the main episode. And if we get our episode done early, you get it early, and that helps us just cover costs, web hosting, trying to get a little bit of money to the people that help write the articles for the website, things like that. And of course, don't forget you can watch all of these episodes over at youtube.com/theclipout, and you can sign up for our newsletter at theclipout.com, where you will have the links and whatnot for the articles every week sent directly to your inbox, and just a weekly reminder that we exist. So there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Peloton in the news.
We have changes to the live schedule.
We do.
Insert screaming panic noises here.
For reals, people are really flipping out about this. So it's important to note the number of days available to members to come into the studio has not changed again. A while back, they had changed the number of open days on PSL, London side.
Yes.
Specifically, what is happening now is that on Wednesdays, they will not be broadcasting any live classes that day.
Okay.
None.
Right.
Also, they will not be broadcasting live classes on Thursday or Wednesday.
Okay.
So that is a big deal.
Right. So what I'm hearing, let me just make sure if I understand this correctly, they're going out of business.
I mean, that's definitely what people are saying. A lot of people feel that this is a cost-cutting move. That is the big takeaway from a lot of people. Although, I will say, yeah, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's really what's going on here. I want to go back to a few months ago when we had pictures of all of the instructors with barbells and benches. Okay.
Right.
We talked about this because recently Andy released his Density 2 program and benches showed up in it, right? Well, I think this has to do with it too. The picture that Peloton chose to release with their press release is Rad Lopez on a bench lifting a heavy barbell.
Okay.
That is important, I feel. And in fact, I think it's more important than the takeaway that this means it's cost cutting. I don't think it changes the cost cutting. I don't think it changes the cost astronomically to film one last day. And here's the thing. They're still going to be dropping on-demand classes that day.
Right.
They're not changing the fact that they will be giving us on-demand classes. So I think that what it really tells us, the bigger takeaway, in my opinion, is that there will be more types of classes coming out, because Peloton did not say to everybody, we are just changing the number of classes that we are doing. They also said new content coming. And I think that we are going to see different things. One of those things I believe is going to be strength training. I think you're going to see more of this barbell. I think you're going to see more of this bench, maybe potentially more Pilates, maybe potentially more things like that. I think that is a much bigger deal and a much bigger takeaway.
Yeah. And, people who love live classes, I feel like, make the most noise.
Oh, yeah.
But they're also used the least. The data has said that for years, that on-demand classes get used infinitely more than the live classes.
They do.
And so I think it's when they're weighing options, it's just, it
makes sense. Now, I will say there are some problems with this. Okay, because I don't know who all is in this majority with me, but I know it's a lot of us, and I know it is truly a majority. Maddie's walk-in talks are one of the best classes of the week, bar none.
Yeah.
Well, that got affected. There is no more Wednesday walk-in talk.
Gotcha.
Now, they did move that to Tuesdays. Maddie confirmed that on socials yesterday.
Okay, so the class is still around, just not a Wednesday thing.
That one is.
Okay.
But now, look at the rest of what's offered on Wednesdays. One of Alex K's rowing classes. There's already very few rowing classes.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to the rowing classes? Is that one going to be replaced? No comment on that yet. Doesn't mean that it won't be.
Right.
We just don't have a definitive answer just yet. But Peloton is saying not only are they going to be having strength, they are saying strength is their second most popular modality. That means it passed up the tread. That means it passed everything else. And they also are saying there's going to be more ways to run, walk, and cycle using audio-only cues. Some people automatically assume that is going to mean AI programming. Don't know.
Yeah.
And there's going to be new cross-modality training coming in where members are combining strength and other modalities more than ever to level up training. I am very curious to see what that means. And they're saying, hey, we're still going to have all these great classes that have always been part of Peloton. And they're also saying that they just launched this greatest hits of all time collection, top classes from our most beloved Peloton instructors, which I think is also the ones that just left. So that was kind of weird.
But maybe that's their first foray in that. Like
maybe.
That was the obvious choice, and they'll be collecting other things later.
Yeah, I mean, that is possible.
And I think that's a great idea because, I'm sure to a new user, the amount of content has to be overwhelming. It
is overwhelming.
Yeah.
As a user, I am overwhelmed by the amount of it. Now, people who have been involved in Peloton since the beginning and they are big bike users, they always feel bike has suffered. Used to be 10 classes a day. Now there's 3 classes a day. Now there's going to be a whole day. There's no classes a day.
Right.
No live classes. But I don't know. I don't know that I feel like... I don't think that it's good for you to only ride your bike. Like, I think that if you want to be a well-rounded, fit person, honestly, you need to do some strength training. You need to do something else. One modality is not the best way to do it. Even John Foley said that back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember him very clearly being like, these people that are riding like 20 hours out of the 24, like, I'm concerned for them. They should not be doing that.
Yeah.
And he said that very off the cuff and just as a conversation. It wasn't like he was making some big press release.
Right.
That was just a friendly conversation. But seriously,
back when he was allowed to have them.
Yes. But I think that people might need to remember that it's actually really good to do lots of things.
Yeah. So here's a conspiracy theory.
Ooh, let me have it.
It is election season.
Jesus Christ.
So I know that Peloton is not in a position financially to acquire anything right now.
Right.
But hearing that strength is second favorite, you got to wonder if that somehow puts Tonal back in play.
I mean,
because Tonal is having its own struggles at the moment. And
I don't think Peloton's in a place to buy anybody.
Yeah, but with Tonal having struggles, like maybe it's not a purchase, maybe it's a merger of some kind.
Well,
or,
other people are saying maybe this also means we're going to see something more with the mirror. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Tonal Peloton
a lot
merger.
Of people would.
I mean, that would cement the future of Tonal, which I would be here for.
Yeah.
And I think both companies really could benefit and need to do more of, especially Peloton, women-focused, women-centric training.
Yeah.
As we said last week, as you said last week, Peloton is always skewed female. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, how is this not a main focus?
This is what a feminist looks like, honey.
I know. And I am grateful. I am not a fan of other things.
So CNBC had an article this week talking about how Peloton staved off its liquidity crunch But now what?
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting article, most of which we've already hit. We know that they have a new $1 billion term loan. We know that they raised $350 million in convertible senior notes, and they received a new $100 million line of credit. They all come due in 2029. Okay.
Okay, so that's a good chunk of time.
Yes. But it although it reduced the debt from 1.75 billion to 1.55 billion, it also means that their payments per month go up. So that is something that I'm not sure everybody does necessarily have a takeaway from.
Right.
I mean, that stuff really bores me. I'm not going to lie. So
Yeah.
like when I read the financial stuff, like I'm just like my eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
So I think they're saying that Peloton is going to now be spending $133 million annually in interest. And that's up from $89 million previously.
Wow, that's a big bump.
It is a big bump.
Yeah.
$50 million is no joke.
That's not nothing.
That's not nothing. And Coddington, who is their CFO,
Yes.
acknowledged to CNBC that the higher interest rate is going to impact free cash flow, but that's partly why they started to cut the costs in early May, that they expected to reduce the annual run rate expenses by more than $200 million. And Coddington says even with these higher interest payments, that Peloton will be able to sustain positive free cash flow without having the business materially grow in the near term, and that the cost reduction plan made them a lot more comfortable with that. Now, this article also goes on to say that while two of the largest debt holders, Soros Fund and Silver Point Capital, did go ahead and refinance, and that sounds great for Peloton.
Right.
It also is probably those companies trying to put themselves in a better position should Peloton shit the bed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So cross our fingers for no bed shitting.
That is what we are crossing our fingers for.
Yes.
No train spotting moments here.
Yes. If not, perhaps they can come out with their own line of rubber sheets. So there's a lot going on. So let's just do some quick hits of things that have gone on in the world of Peloton this week. So Tunde was honored at the BET Awards.
She was. That took place on June 30th. She wore a beautiful dress and people were super excited about it. I mean, that's a huge honor. That's
Absolutely.
A huge honor.
Although I guess maybe it was besmirched slightly in that they also honored O.J. Simpson.
That was a weird one, but that was in their in memoriam.
Right, but like that's...
I know.
I mean, he did have a hell of a career, but he also did...
He did.
There's also the other thing.
The killing.
Yeah, that's that puts an asterisk by things.
It does.
And so that was an odd choice.
Wow, that documentary we watched was fascinating.
Yeah, the OJ in America.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it's been out for years now, but it really...
If you haven't watched it, you know, it's one of those that like really like...
Like when you start it, it's going to hit a point where you're like, we aren't talking about OJ. What is happening?
Yeah.
And it like zooms out so far that so it can zoom back in, and it's really masterful.
It is. It is. It all comes back around.
Yeah.
Also, Kirsten Ferguson introduced her intention-setting outdoor walks. So those started this week. And then we talked about this last week, but the iFit class action settlement was reached.
Yes.
And the screen freeze is fixed. Now, I did want to touch on this just for a moment, and that is, I had somebody reach out this week, and they thought that by saying this, that Peloton had announced it. So I just wanted to clarify. Peloton did not announce that the screen fix was okay. This came from members who their screen started working again.
Surprise.
So, yeah. So Peloton still has not announced anything. Don't know that they ever will. I think that is probably on purpose.
Yeah. They're just like, it's fixed. Why do we need to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there is the big sale going on right now where you can refer a friend. You get $700. They get $700 off their purchase, and you get 2 months of Peloton membership for free.
Well, that's interesting that the membership deal is back because they used to do that. And I think there are some people who are still riding for free.
I think they have all quit, but I mean, it was up until like last year.
Yeah. I mean, there were some people that were early adopters that when that bike was so hot, like they were, I mean, it was an
Years
easy
and
sell
years and
they
years.
racked up years and years of use.
And this only lasts until like mid-July. So you have a very small window.
Gotcha. We're not doing that again.
No, they learned their lesson.
Although honestly, wouldn't you like to sell bikes like that again? So I mean, it's like, is that
so true?
Is that the worst thing ever? Now, I'm not saying that deal is what was selling the bikes. I really think
No, the bikes were selling the bikes.
right, precisely.
And just one last mention, don't forget Amazon Prime Days are coming. So if you have your eye on the Peloton equipment, now is a good time to make sure you are a Prime member and get ready for those sales. They take place on the 16th and 17th. And People Magazine is reporting that those invite-only sales I talked about last week,
Yes.
they're going to be up to 60% off on the original bike.
Yikes.
That is what People is reporting. I have not found that anywhere else, but that's what they're saying.
Wow.
So
Man, if you get that kind of a deal, it's worth buying a bike just to flip it.
I know.
Or if you have a spare laying around.
But remember, invite only. You have to go ask to get on the invite list. So go do that now and then cross your fingers, I guess.
Coming up after this, we're going to talk to Dr. Jenn. She has tips for you on how to break up with your therapist. Sometimes it needs to happen. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean you're bad. Sometimes people just don't click. She'll walk you through it. So stick around.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube is Dr. Jenn Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. She was also a 5-year national team member in rhythmic gymnastics and sports psychology for USA Gymnastics. It's Dr. Jenn. Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm going to take the reins.
Okay, go for it.
So a few episodes back, we talked about finding a therapist. And so I thought maybe you could give us some tips on how to unfind a therapist. Like, say you got one and you've been there for a while and you're just not feeling it. They're telling you things you just absolutely don't agree with, or it just doesn't feel like a good fit, or you've found out that they're a nut job.
Which does happen in this day and age where like you can Google your therapist and find out all kinds of
Right.
things about them.
You see the bumper sticker
Yeah.
on the back of their car and you're like, you voted for who?
Yeah, exactly.
Hard pass. So how do you extract yourself from that situation?
It's a great question. And the number one issue that stops people from ending that relationship, that from when I talk to people, is fear of upsetting or hurting the feelings of the therapist.
Absolutely.
I cannot tell
Yeah.
you how many people I have talked to who have stayed in therapy relationships for months, if not years, that were no longer serving them because they were worried about hurting the feelings of the therapist. Now, first of all, that is a red flag about the therapy relationship. If you're feeling like you need to take care of your therapist, then either the therapist has communicated something in some sort of way that is unhealthy in the relationship, or you're recreating something from your childhood or your history, and the therapist hasn't picked up on it and has missed the mark that you're being such a people pleaser that you're not getting your needs met. Now, one caveat I should say is that there are times where people feel like this therapy relationship isn't working for me, but they also haven't addressed with the therapist, hey, I need you to be more directive, or I need more tools, or, you know, I've noticed that when I talk about my mother, you keep bringing it back to some other stories that I'm just finding, I know you're trying to be helpful, but it's distracting, and I feel like it's preventing me from getting to the emotion of my story. It's very hard to say and do those things, especially if you're feeling vulnerable in therapy, you're new to therapy, you're not a therapist yourself, so you don't know about this stuff. But it is important to be able to process in your therapy what's working and what's not. I've had plenty of clients over the years who have said like, hey, this intervention didn't feel good to me, or like the way you said that, it hurt my feelings, or whatever it is. That's like, as a therapist, we have an expression that's called grist for the mill. which means whatever happens in therapy, because therapy is a microcosm of how you function in the world, it's great material for us as therapists to help you. So there's that category of stuff. So I always encourage people, if something in your therapy relationship isn't working, first talk about it with your therapist, because that's grist for the mill. That's important information. And it's also you learning a skill of asking to get your needs met, which is important. Then there's that other category of like, this person is just not the right fit. They're just not getting you. Their interventions are just not feeling like a good match, in which case it's important to actually terminate the relationship. And keep in mind, in therapy school, they teach us how to help a client terminate a relationship, and that is a normal expected part. And if your therapist is a good therapist, they're going to first process with you kind of what's going on that you may be acting out. Are you not addressing things that maybe are scary for you to address and you're trying to bail? Or is this just not the right fit? And any therapist who is worth their weight, like, will want to know this. They will, if it's not the right fit, ethically, you want the client to find someone who's the right fit. That therapist should give you 3 names of people that might be the right fit for you. That's what we are taught to do. Always give 3 referrals. So just keep in mind that that is part of the therapeutic process. And then also there's the positive end of therapy, which is like, I've accomplished my goals here. Like, I feel ready to move on. I've enjoyed our work, and I feel like it's time for me to be able to go off on my own, in which case the therapist should be happy for you. Like, that's a positive. That means that you've done great work together, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. It's a shame dating doesn't have the 3 referral system.
You know, I remember when I was single, I actually would do that. So like, if a guy was like, yeah, I was like, you know what? You are an awesome guy. I'm just not feeling the chemistry, but I have a friend who's adorable, and I think you'd be a really good match with her.
Of course you did.
That's great.
You're so classy. I love it.
Yeah.
What a great letdown.
It is.
Yeah.
We should teach this to the children.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because look, I mean, like, someone can be an awesome person and be attractive, but just like you're not feeling it, it's not what you're looking for. But like, they should be recycled. Like, they're good people. So you want to like pass them on to someone who you like, and like, it could be a match.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, when in doubt with your therapist, just write them a bad check and they'll drop you.
Don't do that.
Yeah, not so much.
In all seriousness, are there any ways that you don't want to end a relationship with a therapist? Like, are there any? Okay, so like maybe just one or 2 of those as well.
Ghosting, not showing up for appointments and not canceling the appointments, or just canceling the appointment and then not saying like, hey, I'm not feeling like this is going to work for me. You know, typically in psychology school, they teach us to have what's called a termination session. So if a client says like, hey, I don't want to work together anymore, one of the things we are trained to do as therapists is to have a termination session where we basically kind of go over like, here are some of the tools you're leaving with. Here are some of the changes I've seen in you over time. Like, it should be a positive thing. And sometimes people are freaked out. They're like, oh my God, I told my therapist I don't want to work with them anymore. Now they want a termination session. Like, they're going to be upset with me. They're going to yell at me. Like, that's not what a termination session is. A termination session is kind of like a celebration of all the work that you've done over the years. And a lot of the time, most therapists will say like, hey, my door is always open to you. If you hit a bump in the road, like, just know I'm here, like, all good. So that's important to keep in mind.
That is, yeah.
They should probably give it a better name than termination session.
It sounds like you're getting axed, man. It sounds like that thing they do whenever you quit a job. What is that called?
An exit interview?
Yeah, I hate those.
It is. It kind of is. Except that, like, the therapist is giving you some positive feedback.
Okay.
No, it makes total sense.
It does.
It's just the marketing guy in me. It's a shit name. Like,
100%.
Well, thank you so much for all of that. And until next time, and there will be a next time. We weren't.
This was not a termination session.
We weren't. Yes. So until next time.
We are not terminating. I am coming back. My doors are open to you.
Yes. Until next time, where can people find you?
On social media at Dr. Jenn Man, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Man.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Instructors in the news.
Another week, another exiting Peloton instructor.
This one was wild.
It was very weird, and I feel like the fact that anybody knows that Tobias Heinze is leaving Peloton they should send you a thank you card, because it really seemed like they were trying to just let this quietly happen.
It does. Now, before people feel like they get upset about that, let me just say Peloton has had a very long and rich history of letting the instructor decide how they want to announce and if they want to announce. Really, if people think back all the way to Stephen Little when he left, it was dead silence for like a week and a half. People were losing their shit. And finally, Stephen Little stepped forward and was like, okay, I'm leaving, and did his final class. But Peloton did not push that. He did that, and he did that because people pushed him from the ether.
Right.
In this particular case, Tobias had not had a live class for a while, and this got very strange. I really have to thank the person who DM'd me. Mm-hmm. This is not, you guys don't know because I said it. You guys actually know because this person DM'd me. And she expressed her concern because Tobias was supposed to be at Pride. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be at London Calling. He didn't show up to either. There was no announcement, no explanation, just nothing. And at the end of May, he announced on his socials he was going to have his brand new signature series. And then it never got posted anywhere. When she laid out those facts for me, I was like, this is not good.
Right.
This is not good. Then I reached out to people and no one answered me, which is never a good sign.
Yeah.
Silence is not good in the Peloton world. So then we went ahead and put our article up saying, where is Tobias?
Right.
And 20 minutes later, Tobias announced that he was leaving. And 5 seconds after that, Peloton released their statement. So was it because of us? I don't know. But I do know that the timing was notable.
Yes. Yes, it was. So, this is odd because they said that they were done with that, with shedding instructors.
Yeah.
And in their statement even said, but this isn't that.
It did.
And so...
The timing has me curious, though.
Right.
The timing has me curious because he posted that about Signature Series in May, right?
Yeah.
Well... That was after Ross had already announced he was leaving in June, which means contract negotiations were just about done.
Right.
So not sure I buy that.
But I also don't get why not just lump them in? Like, because...
Maybe he hadn't made a decision.
I don't know. I guess because it felt like they were trying to let it fall by the wayside. Like, oh, it's a German instructor. Like, people don't really, in America and Canada, don't really pay that much attention to the foreign language instructors. And so, like, well, that one doesn't really count. We'll just let it kind of like wither away. And then they got called on it.
I still say that was Tobias's decision in Peloton's defense, but go ahead.
But I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't understand the logic behind that. Like, you have a high-profile job and you walk away from it. People are going to wonder, like, because, I mean, these instructors are still all over Instagram and whatnot. Aren't people going to be like, how come you're not in Peloton anymore? That's going to be every comment thread you have, you know?
I think that these contract negotiations were not nearly as black and white as Peloton would like us to believe. And I also think there are a lot of hurt feelings from these instructors. We've talked about before, Kristen McGee. I think it is potential that Tobias was another one of those. I also think it's also possible it was unrelated, but he had not officially made his decision about how he was going to announce, and we pushed their hand by making a big deal about it. There were definitely people asking questions, but I do think that the clamor wasn't as loud as it would have been had it been a U.S. instructor.
For sure.
And I think that it was manageable before attention was drawn to it.
Yeah, because my guess is a lot of the big media outlets were like, oh, another instructor left. And then they were like, who? And then they just were like, yeah, no need to write about that.
Yeah, and it's really it's sad that is the takeaway for a lot of people, because a lot of people, I saw comments on, especially in the OPP, God, I hate the OPP, that just were really dismissive of Tobias, and they were like, I don't know who this is. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, like, do more than ride your bike, guys. Like, I'm not saying you have to buy a treadmill. There's lots of ways you can, interact with these instructors.
Yeah.
But Tobias is known as being an excellent instructor with really great playlists, and I feel like a lot of people missed out on that, and it's really too bad when you stay in your little bubble and you don't try new instructors.
Yeah.
But having said that, we don't know what happened. We don't, and we never will. Like that's just unless Tobias comes out and says it, because Peloton's not going to. Yeah. So unless he comes out and says what the deal was, we're never going to know.
Yeah.
And we don't have to know. We wish our luck. We wish Tobias to have luck, rather. So
absolutely.
I hope everything goes well, and I hope that his next chapter is wonderful.
So speaking of that, we wrote an article this week just talking about where your favorite former instructors are now.
Yeah, this was our helper bee, Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth is new to the writing team, but man, does she know how to make a splash. All of our new writers are fantastic. You'd think they'd been doing it the whole time, writing with our team. They just fit right in. But I absolutely love this article because she went all the way back to the beginning.
Oh, wow,
and
nice.
Covered all of the instructors. We did miss that instructor, that German instructor that was here for 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
That got real snotty on social media. Yeah. And so we did go back and correct that, but like everything is in here, all of where everybody's at now, what they've been doing since then. This is a great article. So for those of you that are just, again, don't know that there's so much more to Peloton than what you've lived since however long you've been here.
Yeah, it's a good deep dive if you're like, what happened before I got here, if you're a pandemic baby or whatnot. Yeah, for sure.
There's just a lot that goes with Peloton. Not that you need to understand it to enjoy the bike or whatever product you have, because you don't.
No.
But it's nice. It gives a different level of history, a depth there that when you hear people talk about the good old days, you see some of where that's coming from.
Absolutely.
I also was very charmed by the fact that Oliver Lee shared the story.
Yeah.
And he didn't ask me anything this week.
Yeah.
That takes balls, my friend.
It does.
I love it.
Well, maybe that's not the best choice of words.
I mean, I think it was appropriate, Tom.
Your word choice, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
That is what I mean.
Okay. making things clear.
Pun intended.
Yes. Speaking of former instructors, Kendall Toole spoke with People magazine about what she's got in the offing.
Yeah. And look, good for her. She's going to do a podcast. I am so tired of hearing about Kendall Toole. Like, I cannot wait to never bring her up again. I'm so tired of her self-congratulatory personality. Yeah, she has moved on. She's doing one of her new ventures, because I'm sure there will be many, is a podcast with some person who like has a fixer-upper show. I'm not doing justice. I just don't follow her, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And Galen or something. I don't know. But they actually posted a picture months ago, the two of them like sitting in a tree and like holding their little heart up, like doing the little heart thing.
Hand hearts.
Yeah, hand heart. And so like I thought that was interesting. That was the most interesting thing of all this, because it was just like to see how long the life cycle is.
Right.
Just like really lights up my business brain.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that was like 7 months ago that they posted that.
Yeah.
That's how long this has been in the works.
Brewing.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah, let me get this lady's name just to make Gailey Alex.
Okay.
So the new podcast is called Hold Heartedly, and you will be able to find it everywhere. It drops on July 17th. So every Wednesday it'll be out.
So in non-former instructor news, i.e. instructor news, Callie Gullickson will return in September.
Yes, she comes back from maternity leave, and presumably she will move back from Florida to New York when she does that.
You would think.
You would think. But I have to say, how fascinating that this very week, when all of the buzz is going on with all these instructors leaving, she launched her own website that was very much not about Peloton. And that is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder, when is Callie's contract up?
Yeah. Or maybe she realizes, so speaking of the contract stuff, it does get me wondering how many instructors have signed new contracts begrudgingly, right? How many, did any of them have to take a pay cut to stick around? And so that kind of forces their hand on other ventures in order to offset the loss of income. And Peloton, in a lot of ways, kind of has these instructors by the balls because, obviously there are some like Cody, Robin, Allie Love that have super huge followings and can pivot easily. But a lot of the other ones, their fan base is kind of contingent upon them being a Peloton instructor.
It is. I think that is a fair question. And I don't know about any of them or how they feel about signing their contracts. I don't think any of us could possibly know that. But I will say, I just found it interesting. Now, Callie covers a lot of content on her Instagram, and she pushes a lot of products. And also when she's not pushing products, she also just genuinely loves to share things with people like Trader Joe's. She is a huge Trader Joe's fan. As far as I know, she's not employed by them. And so she has this whole line on her website now of like mocktails and things like that. And so I have a feeling there's more to come. There's a lot of people that are already anticipating there will be a mocktail cookbook coming up in the future, a recipe book rather. And I could totally see that. But I think one of the things that kind of always gives me a raw feeling about some of the instructors that leave is not like they should be all happy and go lucky about every single decision that Peloton makes, or be happy if they had to sign a contract and take a pay cut. But what bothers me is people like Kendall seem to think, and it's definitely the impression I get, it's not like I've had a conversation with her.
Right.
She gives off the impression that she would have accomplished everything she's accomplished without Peloton. And that is a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
And so I feel like sometimes the instructors don't get that yes, Peloton needs them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they also need Peloton. They wouldn't have gotten to 1 million followers, Kendall, without Peloton.
Yeah.
And so I think
they've all had success prior
Absolutely.
to Peloton. Absolutely. And we don't mean to take away from that.
No.
But Peloton for the instructors is also jet fuel.
It's like you always say that saying about, the rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good example or a good way to describe how this works. I don't think any one instructor would have gotten where they are today without Peloton. Not that they wouldn't have been successful on their own, but not in the same way, right? And Peloton,
Except
conversely,
for maybe Robin Arzon.
Maybe. I mean, she is there is a lot of determination there that you just do not see in the average person.
And she came in at a higher level than the other instructors have been brought in at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, some of the later instructors, I think, were probably closer to where Robin was when she first came in.
Yeah.
The newer ones. But I also think...
It was also a lot ballsier choice for her to make at that point in time. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And she knows how to bet on herself. Like, the stuff that she says, I know some people think is like super, like... It is just very cliche.
It can come off that way
Absolutely,
sometimes.
But she lives by the things she says.
That she does.
And you cannot fault her or say that she doesn't, because she does bet on herself. Yeah. She does put herself first, and she knows what she wants, and she knows her worth. Anyway, I think that some of the instructors probably that are still there might be still kind of struggling through that. I think there's been I've seen a lot of things that people have posted, and I don't want to call any instructor out and get them in trouble. There have been people that have posted about tough times recently. Yeah. And when I see that and I see all this going on, I just can't help but think some of that's related. There's some stuff going on in the background.
And they've also got to be careful because, it can also come across as like, poor me.
That's a good point.
I'm just a sad little Peloton instructor at the pinnacle of my industry.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I will say the people that I've seen post, I have never gotten that impression of them.
Yeah.
So I do not see it that way, but you're right. On social media, you can take things a million different ways.
For sure.
And somebody will always find the negative one.
Yeah. Especially when you have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, there's going to be at least one asshole in there. Jess King is bringing back Sweat Steady to the tread.
But this time she's bringing it to the tread. See, that's the thing.
It's not bringing it back. It's bringing it to the tread.
Exactly. It's always
Gotcha.
been on, I shouldn't say always. It has been a long-standing signature series on the bike, but now it is coming over to the tread.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess people are pretty excited about that, I would think.
I don't know.
I mean, if it's
I don't know. I completely missed that it even happened. Like
There's a lot going
It is
on.
a lot. And her reel is, it just doesn't give off the impression that I think that's what that is.
Right.
And so I just saw it and thought it was something else. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I hardly ever watch Instagram with the sound on.
Yeah.
So if you don't have captions that are very clear from moment one, I've already moved on.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only one like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what people are going to put on there. You can't have the sound on just willy-nilly. You never know.
Well, our kids have heard it all.
Yeah. Well, not just
And our kids are almost
17, 19.
17 and 19, almost 18 and 20. So
Yeah.
I don't want to make people think
But
that
also,
we're...
like, you can't be sitting in a doctor's office perusing Instagram with it
Yeah.
on full blast. I would never do that, but
Oh, really? Because the guy next to me on the plane sure didn't mind doing
I
that.
know. I'm real aware. But
And then was shocked and appalled when the stewardess was like, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. How about not sharing that with everybody?
Yeah, I guess-
I don't see why that's a problem.
because headphones exist.
Yeah, because there are 200 people on the plane, all with phones.
I had my headphones on full blast and I could still hear his stupid bad comedy coming
Yeah.
through my headphones. It was
Yes.
annoying. But anyway, back to Sweat Steady. I'm sure there are people excited about it. I think this is yet another example of what you've been talking about lately, that they're trying to bring in bike users to other modalities.
Right.
And this is a good example of that.
If you're a Patreon subscriber, the show will continue immediately. But for everybody else, coming up after this, we're going to talk about how boutique gyms are having a moment and give you the TCO top 5. So stick around.
Checking out the competition.
So this is interesting. Boutique gyms seem to be having a moment.
I mean, that's what this article says. But I tell you, and I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, but I just think it's interesting. We just talked about an article a month ago where they were saying nobody was going to the
Yeah.
gym. So does that mean then, could you hypothesize that like a regular gym isn't getting as many visitors, but these boutique gyms are?
Yes, that's how I skimmed the article, and that was my take on it, was that the big box gyms, the Total gyms or Total Fitness or whatever, like they're starting to level off and see drops, but like the more niche products.
Yeah, they give examples like Orange Theory and Rumble and things like that. Barry's Boot Camp is another example. I think that's really super interesting because they're saying people don't want to work out at home. They don't want to be isolated, and they don't want to get their direction from a screen. And I'm just so fascinated by that.
Well, and it kind of almost feels like you had this generation of people who fell in love with Peloton during the pandemic. The pandemic ends. A certain percentage of them want to get out of the house. They like that ritual of leaving the house, which I don't understand, but I guess I get. You know, everybody's different. They flood the gyms, and now, but they're not getting the instruction that they were used to. So then you have another batch of subset of people that are like, well, I want what Peloton gave me, but
I don't want to just do it at home.
I don't want to do it at home. And so they're going to these boutique gyms to basically replicate Peloton, but in the real world.
It's interesting when you put it that way. Because I think about how Peloton is shutting down all the showrooms. And
Yeah.
I think about, boy, if that's true, just think about that you could have had all these like studios open across the country that also acted as showrooms, you know, where
Yeah.
maybe you don't sell or buy anything, but people could go in and take classes.
Yeah, but you could they were never really designed to teach 20, 30 people at a time.
No, they weren't. But I'm saying it's too bad they weren't. That's
for
my
sure.
point. That's
Yeah.
my point. Like they could have done it differently.
But I don't know if there how much demand there is to go to a boutique gym to then watch somebody on a screen.
I don't know either. I don't know. I mean, in theory, if you're doing it with other people, that's what you're doing it for, and you're still getting the good instruction. But I will say, I don't know that I can even I'm not the person to even ask this question because I don't want to leave my house.
Yeah.
Like I would rather do it all at home.
And, back to what you were saying about trying to do that at a Peloton store, I think the other problem you would have is like, well, then who gets to pick the class?
Oh, that's a good point.
Where when you go to a boutique gym, it's like,
this is what they're doing.
Well, Sheila's your instructor at 10 o'clock, and you're taking that class or you're not.
But I pictured it as being live from the studio.
Right.
And therefore, it would be the 10 o'clock class.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're doing whatever.
But then what happens the rest of the day?
Yeah. I mean, I you could have several of those. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yes, that's what I'm saying.
But I just meant that there aren't nonstop live classes. So what happens when there's not a live class? Who picks then?
There's only a few hours in the middle of the day. There isn't.
Right.
Well, except for Wednesdays now.
Yeah. So.
Wednesdays, Thursdays. And
it's neither here nor there. But it's interesting that the boutique gyms are.
It is. Yeah. And I don't know what that means. Like, does that impact Peloton? Does that have a long-term effect?
I can't help but think that maybe in the long term it's good for Peloton because those places are expensive and it can be difficult to get to. And so it means when people get tired of that, the logical evolution
Better go back and use my bike.
is to go back to Peloton. So we shall see.
We shall.
New content.
Before we dig into the TCO top 5, let's do our bingo call out.
Da-da-da-da.
Oh, we're back to doing drum rolls.
I was just going to try.
Okay.
Dennis Morton is bingo number 2.
There you go. Okay. It is time for the TCO top 5. You have told us what your favorite classes of the week are, and now we will tell everyone. The first item up for bid is your favorite row, or if you're British, your favorite row.
Well, it is a boot camp row, and it takes place with Katie Wong on June 17th. Sonia Norman said that it was, this class was not only a great workout, she didn't even realize how hard she was working because Katie made it so fun and the playlist was perfect. This class, the songs included in this class are It's Raining Men by the Weather Girls, Macho Man by YMCA, and I Feel Love by Donna Summer. That does sound like a lot of fun.
How about that?
Yeah.
Paul Schaefer wrote It's Raining Men.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And the lead female vocalist on that is the same female vocalist on all the CNC Music Factory hits.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
It's a very fascinating story.
You have to listen to the bonus. We're not going there today.
Okay, sorry. Number 2, favorite artist series ride.
Well, Little John with Alex Toussaint this week. People absolutely loved it. People raved about it. Now, I did see some crabby people about it saying that they talked too much, the two of them. They felt like they were arguing over the microphone. But most people absolutely raved about it.
I mean, if you're having the artist in the studio,
you kind of have to expect the talking.
The whole
like
point.
what? Why you just want to watch him ride a bike?
Yeah, I don't even understand. Like, I get why you don't like it, but then don't ever take that class.
Right. If it's not your jam, that's okay. Yeah, I know.
I like Motorhead. I just wish they weren't so loud.
To be fair, I saw that on the OPP, which doesn't that sound right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But Felicia Ann, Pat Darling, Jill Tokazarek, which I'm sure I'm not saying correctly, and Stacy.
But I'm also sure she's used to it.
Stacy Elise, all of them loved this ride. They all nominated it. And Felicia Ann said it was the best ride she'd ever taken. Pat Darling said it was pure fun and energy. I will also say I was particularly charmed by the fact that every single person that mentioned Little John in their stories, he re-mentioned them on his stories. I thought that was really cool.
That is cool.
He seemed genuinely hyped about it. You know, sometimes these artists are all above it. You know, they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was cute.
Number 3, favorite strength class.
Okay, so this one was taught by Rebecca Kennedy on 4/1 of 24. So we're going back a little bit.
We are.
30-minute strength roll call, body weight. And Courtney Marissa picked this, saying that Rebecca did a 100 rep pyramid challenge, and that sounded really scary to her at first, but she was glad she stuck with it. It had a great playlist. It was a very challenging class, but she made it achievable. And spoiler, even the 50 push-ups. I'm going to say you're lying, Courtney Marissa.
Yeah,
There's no way.
You're a damn dirty liar. Number 4, your favorite Peloton farewell ride. Well, there's a lot to choose from, so.
Well, only one ride.
Oh, ride. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and that was Kendall. Lots of people loved it. There were like 19,000 people on this ride.
Sure, makes sense.
And yeah, people loved it. Mariana, Camilla, and Ash all were there riding to say goodbye. So that was nice of them to show up and show support.
And then finally, your favorite unstackable.
Okay, so this one was taught by Sam Yo back in 2003. David Stimber says the 60-minute rock ride was the unstackable. He had great commentary. He said, Sam's a Peloton instructor, stage actor, Buddhist monk, and apparently the cardio god of rock. The music for this ride included a lot of class, top metal songs, and where's the freaking break between climbs? There isn't one. That's what David says.
Okay. Now let's take a quick look at this week at Peloton. We've got a country happy hour.
Well, not only do we have a country happy hour, but it's actually the last one in this particular run. You know, they do their little seasons,
yes.
And this particular week is the last one in this season. I want to say, I can't remember who it was, but one of the famous people, the country singers, was in the class.
Okay, I was like, that's a wide...
Yeah, I want to say it was like Casey Musgraves or something, but I don't know if that's true. I just remember seeing Hannah post about it on her Instagram.
Gotcha.
It's already fallen out of my brain.
Yes.
Like it was there and then boom, it was gone. We have new full body stretches that Adrienne Williams released. 30 minutes. That's luxurious. A full body stretch.
I feel like a lot of people will be watching the class, but maybe not taking the class.
I mean, you can do both. Nothing wrong with that. Lots of people like to look at Adrienne.
There are also new walking meditations.
There are, and I love these. Audio walking only. So there are new classes. They dropped on the Wednesday, July 3rd. So they just dropped.
And then finally, Peloton defected records lane break ride.
Yeah, we're seeing this collaboration continue, and this is a 20-minute lane break ride. Not run, ride. So that's really fun.
Peloton is celebrating July 4th.
Yes, they are. And there will be no live classes, but there's going to be new content dropping. We have a 4th of July arms and shoulder strength class. That is going to be, there's also going to be a 4th of July row, 4th of July ride at 8 a.m., and a 4th of July run. So you're going to have across all of the different spectrums, new classes dropping. So enjoy that.
And in the interest of equal time, they also celebrated Canada Day.
Yes, they had 2 new classes that dropped, and they are both including music entirely by Canadian artists.
So Bare Naked Ladies, Sarah McLachlan,
Justin Bieber, Alanis Morissette,
Widespread Panic,
Avril Lavigne. Yep.
There you go.
No, I didn't see most of the ones you said, but
Rush.
No, Drake, Nelly Furtado, Sum 41, and Nickelback. Sure,
I always forget Nickelback's Canadian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
There was lots of discussion about the rumored Tortured Poets Department class.
Yes. And on the day we said it was going to happen, it did happen.
Oh, look at that one. What were we talking about?
On Thursday, June 27th, 3 p.m. Eastern, there was, in fact, a Tortured Poets Department ride. I thought this was really interesting because Nikki pointed out something today that I did not get, and that is that that Peloton still has not announced any Taylor Swift classes, and they're not saying like, oh, this is what we're gonna have this whole new artist series. Now that's weird because typically when you have one class, you have it across all the different disciplines, right?
Right.
But also interesting is that Robin said during the class that it was going to drop within the next 10 days. So we know that that's going to drop sometime soon. Mm-hmm. But then Nikki brought up the point that I feel really silly for missing, and that is that one of the artist series that has been announced is also happens to be a huge part of this album with Taylor Swift. What's that guy's name?
Jack Antonoff or Antonoff or something like that, yeah.
that's the guy.
Yeah.
So they did announce a Jack Antonoff series, and that is taking place next week. So that's fascinating, isn't it?
So yeah, maybe that's how they're sneaking it in.
That's what I told you today when I
Yeah.
sent you all those messages.
It is.
I'm not sure it got through.
No, it did.
Okay, you just look like you have no idea what I'm talking
No,
about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, and that guy also has done a lot of other work as well.
Sure.
He
It's not
worked
just
with
Taylor Swift.
Fun and Lord and lots of different things.
It makes you wonder if they'll do like some of his different artists in like split
in
it
chunks,
Yeah.
or if it'll just be.
This one was broken out and the rest won't be.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do that. I could see them being like, okay, like contemporary artists, or, like do it by decade, or do it by like, here's all the Lord ones over here.
Right.
Here's all it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
Absolutely.
In case you missed it.
And real quick, we have an apparel sale going on.
We do, just in time for 4th of July. And some of the items that just dropped a week ago are included in the sale.
Wow.
Most of which were like not included. They're excluded. But there are a few
Yeah.
that made it through. So make your own opinions about that.
Yeah, that's a real quick jump to a discount. Like
Yeah.
I would think. Also, isn't within the return window? People could just, if they haven't taken the tags off, they can send the other stuff back.
Yeah, you could.
But that's so quick. Since it came out last week, most people probably haven't gotten their stuff yet. So
Also true.
So if you really wanted to,
Yeah,
you could do that.
Yeah.
So not saying you should, but you should.
You should at least consider it.
Yeah. Coming up after this, we're going to talk to Jennifer Armendariz from the Hardcore Early Risers group, so stick around.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
Joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Jenn Armendariz. Hey, Jen, how's it going?
Hi, great. How are you guys doing?
Good. We are so glad to have you here today. And we've changed the time on you once, and then today we had all kinds of difficulties. So you've been very patient, and we appreciate it.
No worries. Gotta love technology.
Yes.
She's like, these guys have done like 350 of these things.
What is the problem?
Why do they not have it down yet?
It happens.
So I always like to start these conversations with kind of understanding a background of how you came across Peloton. Like, how did you get to here?
Well, I am actually a group fitness instructor, and I started hearing about Peloton in 2020 when like everything shut down, our gym shut down that I was working at, and I wanted, we needed to bring back or use our spin bikes rather. So I was going to use them at home, and then I found Peloton, and I think, they had their free trial. So I tried it and fell in love with it. And that's what I was doing since then.
Okay. So when you say you're a group fitness instructor, I know that can mean a lot of things. That can mean you teach spin classes, you teach other types of classes. Do you still teach any classes at this point? Because I know that can be an in and out thing.
Yeah. I was teaching a large number of classes and still working full time, and life kind of got a little crazy. So I'm still certified as a group fitness instructor. I just don't teach regularly right now just because of life.
We understand.
Totally get it. Were you conflicted about the existence of Peloton since you are teaching people in real life, and here's this other thing?
Oh, was I conflicted?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I loved it so much. I just loved the vibe of the instructors, and I would get to see like new music and do all those types of things. So a lot of like the songs that I would hear on class, I could incorporate into my own classes. So I really loved it. Yeah. I loved it. Loved it.
It sounds like it was almost a little bit of inspiration into your class. Like it gave you some ideas and some different ways to go that you might have not gone without hearing those. That's fun.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I really was, I have my favorite instructors, and, I would get ideas from them without them even knowing. So yeah, it was totally cool.
I'm that's great. I'm really curious about this because we've talked to a lot of fitness instructors, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you like to have somebody else teach you because you taught other classes? Like, is it nice to just let go and not have to think about what the class should be?
Or are you constantly evaluating?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Oh. No, I am not evaluating at all. I just love following the classes right along. Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it, because sometimes or a lot of times they introduced me to new moves that I didn't realize, new exercises, new ways of doing things, especially like with the new split programs and all that stuff. So yeah, no, I definitely follow along, and yeah. Yeah.
Have you always been into fitness and working out, or is that something you did more as an adult?
No, I think I've always been into working out ever since like middle school and high school, and then in college, I just, did the gym thing. And then I've always loved exercise as a stress reliever for me.
Yeah, that's great. Tom hasn't embraced that side of things.
I just do it. I muddle through.
Just to check a box.
Yeah.
It's baby steps.
Exactly. Okay, so now you are I know that you're part of the founding group of the Hardcore Early Risers. Tell us about that, how this happened. I need to know more.
Yeah. So I guess I was on the Hardcore on the Floor Facebook page, and someone posted about, hey, if you need an early morning accountability group, we wake up at 4 a.m., come join us. So I messaged one of the girls, and we have a WhatsApp group. And this was probably back starting in 22 when I joined them. So we probably have like over 100 messages throughout the day, all day. And it starts with in the morning, like everybody's waking up, like they're going to do their workouts. And then it just goes throughout the whole day. But it's so great because it is truly how Peloton helps like communities form, And I kid you not when I say like we have been through everything in this group together with this group of women, and from everything from, we talk about marriage stuff, kids stuff. We've gone through cancer diagnosis together. We've gone through, family illness, like all of these things. And it's just such a comfortable place to be with each other. And it's funny because most of the girls are on the East Coast. I'm over here, in Texas. So we're like 2 hours apart, 3 hours apart. And in 23 is when we had our first meetup, and we all met up in Peloton at New York. We took classes together, and that was our first meeting, and we just had the best time.
Okay, I have to clarify. 4 a.m. Central Time or Eastern Time? Because that is 3 a.m. if it's Central Time.
Right. So those girls are up at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 2 a.m. my time. I'm not up at that time. I'm up at 4 a.m. my time.
Okay.
I was going to ask, is there anybody that has joined the group and then you find out that they're in a different time zone and they're actually joining your 4 a.m. ride at like 8 a.m. their time?
Lazy people.
They're totally scamming you. Has that ever happened?
Well, there's no judgment. We can get our workouts in at night or at our lunch hour, or, when some of the girls just had babies, when the baby's asleep, you got to get that workout in when you can.
That's a much healthier attitude, Tom.
What's the latest you can start a ride and still be considered a hardcore early riser?
We've never set restrictions that way, I promise.
I'm just trying to sprinkle the seeds of dissent. I'm the guy that's watching Gremlin.
We have a whole checklist. 4 a.m. for sure. Are you up or not? Because if you're not, you can't be in it. No, of course not.
I'm the guy that watched Gremlins that was like, okay, so what if they eat, but something gets stuck in their teeth? And then at 12:01, they worked that out.
He has actually legit asked that question
now
as a serious thought process.
Now
that is not
your
a
gremlin
joke.
has eaten after midnight, and what are you going to do?
Like, oh my God.
What if you're in a plane and you cross a time zone? And they started their sandwich at 11:50, and now it's 12:50. Now what happens?
All kinds of questions.
These are things people need to know.
Those are interesting thoughts and questions to have. Absolutely.
Oh, she's so sweet. Okay, so back to you guys went to the studio. Was that your first time in the studio?
Yeah, that was the first time I had been there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So you were at the new studio because I was in the middle of COVID, or, towards the end of all that. So what was it like? What was it like seeing everybody, meeting people in person?
Oh, I just felt like I just have all these celebrity crushes or something. You know what I mean? I was like super starstruck when I saw everybody, and I really enjoyed it because everyone there at the studio was just so welcoming. And then the members that you meet that go there, and you're all excited because you're taking the class, and the instructors are so welcoming too. It was the best time. It was the best time. So our group, we want to go every year. So I missed this year because of some family stuff, but yeah, I'm hoping to catch them in 25 when we go to New York again.
Oh, 25. Oh my God.
It's less than 6 months away.
I know. Shush.
Yeah, exactly. We're halfway through the year. May as well put your Christmas tree up now.
Oh my God. That's too much, both of you.
You're implying that we ever took it down.
Well, we didn't, but I did.
I took it to the dump.
Oh, that Christmas tree. We have two. We had two.
So
anyway.
Are you naturally an early riser? Is this something that's career driven, or is that a choice that you made so you can get more done in a day?
No, I honestly think it's because when I've been an early riser since I was a kid. And when I was smaller, my dad always left to work super early, like at 4 a.m, and he would wake me like to say good morning or whatever. And by that time I was up. So I think that's just the way I am.
Yeah, I am.
And then, I work in healthcare, and when I worked in the hospital, we had 6 a.m. shifts. So of course I had to get up early anyway.
Yeah. That was my first thought. You're either in healthcare or you host an FM morning show.
The only two reasons.
There's the only two reasons. Or a cop.
Well, maybe one day I will host a radio show.
Okay, so how do you balance being in healthcare, which can be stressful and overwhelming, with your exercise? Like, how do you do all that?
Well, the one thing for sure is that I do work out before work. I get up, get 3:45, get my workout in, and then get ready for the day and get the kids ready, for school and whatnot. But I also found that I really enjoy walking at lunchtime. So I would normally walk outside, but now in El Paso, it's already like 107. So I just can't do that at lunchtime. So the other thing I decided to do was get like one of those walking pad treadmill things. And I keep it in my office, and I do that when I'm like dictating my notes and charting and things like that. Not when the patient's in the room. I'm alone.
Okay, but I do have a question about that. When the patient's in the room, can they see the walking pad? Because is it like tucked under?
Because it's like under my desk.
Nice.
So sometimes they look down and they're like, "Oh, you have a treadmill," but the majority of the time they can't see it.
That's great. I mean, I don't think they should. I mean, you're being healthy, so either way, they shouldn't be like upset about it, right? But I was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would be super weird if I was on the treadmill while they were like in the office.
I get that.
Or maybe they're getting nervous. They're like,
"Oh no, is this a stress test nobody told me about?"
I brought you in today to talk about your weight. Get on the treadmill right now. So what sort of?
They haven't thought that I was putting them through a stress test. Thank goodness.
So what sort of healthcare do you do?
So I'm a nurse practitioner, and I work in hematology and oncology.
Wow. So heavy conversations sometimes, I would think. Yeah. But
I love it. That's the majority of my career has been in oncology, and it's one of my passions. So I love it.
Thank you for doing that. We need good people who care and who are kind and compassionate whenever people are going through that. So thank you for doing that.
No, thank you. I think it prepared me for the things that I've had to deal with my mom's own health too, so I've been on the, of course, taking care of my patients. I've been on that side as a healthcare provider, but now I'm on the patient side when dealing with helping my mom with her health. So yeah.
Wow.
That has to be quite a switch.
Yeah.
To flip,
And probably
it is a switch.
I would think it's also really difficult to not be 100% in control of that healthcare. That would be hard. I'm having like a feeling of panic just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's hard because the things that I do know, and but it's also the lessons that I've learned as far as helping my mom navigate like the healthcare system, and then also the importance of patients having their advocates, because sometimes patients aren't able or feel comfortable to speak up for themselves. So I'm happy to be the one to advocate for my mom when I think there's better things that she needs.
That's a fortunate aspect of an unfortunate situation, right? Like because I think a lot of people, I feel like I'm like this. I mean, I haven't gone through anything like that, but like, I don't always even know what to ask. I'll get home from the doctor and Crystal will be like, did you ask this, and this then? And I'm like, no, I didn't even think to.
Well, even when like your grandma was in the hospital, or when your dad was going through his, before he passed and everything that happened with him, I was always just like, I was always the nosy one in the room being like, well, what about this? And how do we do this? And how is this going to happen? And like him and his sister are both just like real quiet. And I'm just like, this isn't really my place to be Miss Nosy. But like at the same time, I just can't help it. Like I worry that people don't understand it all the way. And so I'm like, we got to ask all the questions.
Right, I agree. And, I've noticed here in El Paso, particularly with the Hispanic culture too, it's a lot of things. It's just like, well, if the doctor says this is the way it is, this is the way it is. And the patient doesn't want to ask questions, or they don't feel comfortable, but patients and family members, they need to speak up for themselves, and so that they're well informed.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, I think there is a mentality, and I'm guilty of it. I'm like, well, I don't know doctoring. That's why I went and got myself a doctor, And so I'm like, man, if they say do X, Y, and Z, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah. I don't always agree with my dad, but I do agree whenever he says to a doctor, he says, okay, but tell me in plain English. Like, I just need you to tell me like I am an idiot. Explain it to me as very simply as possible. And I think everybody should be comfortable saying that, because, doctors use the words that are obvious, and it makes sense that they would use those words, but not everybody gets even if they understand the broad meaning, they don't always understand what it implies. Some of the terms that are used,
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. They, as patients, they shouldn't be ashamed to say like, hey, I don't understand what you're saying. Break it down for me. That's absolutely 100% acceptable.
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of people just need to hear that. So I'm really glad you, as a nurse practitioner, are telling people that. I think that might help other people out there listening. I'm also curious. I want to go back to the sleep thing. Now, if you get up at 3:45 in the morning, what time are you going to bed? I need to understand this. Yeah, I know, right?
I know. I'm working on my sleep. It's not that I have trouble sleeping. It's just that, there's like so many things to do during the day. So my goal is to be in bed at 9, but majority of the time I'm in bed like at 10 or 10:30.
Oh,
oof.
I'm sorry.
Like even 9 doesn't seem like
it
late
doesn't
enough.
Because I need my sleep. I am a monster if I don't sleep. And like I go to bed.
Sometimes she's a monster if she did sleep.
It's true. But I need to go to bed at like 9 p.m. and I don't fall asleep that fast. But at the same time, I get up at 5, and that is too short of a time. Like I can't imagine. I cannot imagine at 4 a.m. I just couldn't do it.
No, I know. Like I really am trying to work on that, because I need my sleep. And this isn't a plug. I found, or my friends told me about this Whoop band, and it's, you have it.
She's a big proponent.
Yes.
Me too. Mine's not as cool as yours, but yeah. So that's also been helping me with my recovery and stuff, so it's kind of like putting it in my face, like, hey, you didn't sleep last night. You really need to like take it easy. So I was so excited this week when I saw like I got 100% of my sleep for the first time like ever.
Good job. That's a big deal. I'm very proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I don't know. I go to bed earlier than my kids do sometimes, and they're like, really, Mom, you're going to bed already? Yes.
Yes, I am. Yes,
so
I am.
Keep it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what headphones are for.
I put on a meditation from Ross and I'm good to go.
Yes, he's the best sleep meditation guy ever. Well, I was going to ask what other classes you take. I know you take strength classes and you take meditation, clearly. What is there? Are you mixing it up with some yoga and some Pilates, things like that? Or are you Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I definitely started adding more yoga and stretching into my life this year because, well, I wish I would have appreciated stretching when I was like in my 20s. So I've been doing, and the foam rolling, I do that. I also really enjoy like the bar classes, like the 10-minute bar classes before like a leg workout. So that's one of my favorite ways to work out or to warm up. I'm starting to incorporate running now. So I'm a very, very, very beginner when it comes to running. So I do that as well. I love the yoga. That's the hip, like the focus flow for the hips and lower body. Yeah, it's really great. It's really great.
Those are fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited about all the new running content they are coming up with lately. I'm so thrilled about the Pace Target classes. They are great. I love them. excited.
That's awesome. So you're a runner.
I am. Yeah. And when you say beginner, I believe you, but like I'm not a beginner, but I am so slow. Like it's painful how slow I am. And so I hate it, and I really wish I could get faster, and that's always my goal because I'm so painfully slow. But the pace classes are so fun, and it's great to have like, okay, well now I started this level, now I have something to be very specific to work toward. That's nice to have that target instead of just guessing every time I get on the tread, which is usually what I do.
And it's nice to have like a program to help you with all of that, you know. I had ran a half marathon a few years ago, and I didn't train properly at all. Like, it's ridiculous that I even did that. But now I really want to like learn how to train and, you know, give appropriate time. And, you know, the recovery though is key. Like I realize that, yes, I have to stretch before and warm up before a run, and I have to stretch after and cool down appropriately, or that's it. My hips and my knees are going to hurt.
Yep, that is so true. Well, you know, whenever you're ready, they just put out that Road to the Half Marathon program. They just launched that. Yeah. So that could be a great thing for you to look forward to when you're ready.
For sure. Yeah. No, I do. I have this goal to get back to doing it. And I even saw this morning, I'm like, man, why don't I live in New York? Because I think Rad posted that he was going to do a run in Central Park. And I'm like, dang it, why don't you guys ever plan that stuff when I'm there? I would totally do that.
I know. I saw that and I was like, well, that is just lovely that he is just like all of the people. He just puts it out on his channel and Instagram. He's like, I will be in Central Park. Yeah. I'm like, also, I can see why none of the female instructors would ever do that.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I and my security team will be going for a jog this morning.
No, for sure. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I was super bummed when I saw that. I'm like, oh, too far.
Just run up to Central Park real quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is your
Maybe one day.
Yeah. What is your leaderboard name?
Oh, my leaderboard name is BYO Genergy. So like B, but it's BYO Genergy.
I love it.
That's a good one.
I love it. Do you get a lot of shout outs? Because you should. That's a great leaderboard name.
Well, and I got inspiration from Callie, you know, because she's always about BYOE, like bring your own energy. So yeah, that's how I got my inspiration. Well,
I hope she gives you a lot of shout outs. She should.
Yeah. I got, let's see, I think so far, because I changed it just recently. So I think like Mariana from yoga and Ross. So it's been my yoga peeps that have been giving me those shout outs.
That's great.
That's awesome. So do you have a preferred instructor?
Well, let's see. I love Robin for cycling. That was like what brought me into Peloton for sure. I love Rad for strength, and he was one of the ones that I took the class with in New York. So that was super fun. I also love Chelsea for yoga. Hannah is amazing for bar. I mean, I love them all. You know what I mean? Like I could just talk about every one of them for hours without being like weird or creepy. So those are my go-to. Oh, and my favorite ride, you didn't ask me this, but I'm just going to tell you, my favorite ride ever was the JLo ride that Robin and Jess King did together a few years ago. It was my favorite.
Really? That's great. That's awesome.
What about that ride spoke to you?
It was like just the energy about it. Like it was just such a cool vibe, and it's such a great like pick me up ride. Like if you're having a bad day or you just need some good vibes and energy in your life. That's why I love that ride so much. So I go back to it, especially when I need it on a pick me up day.
Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can. They'll take it away someday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at some point.
No, I know they can't.
So do you have any advice for people just entering the world of Peloton?
I think it's the best advice I would give is just to try the classes that you feel that you're most interested in and that you like, because I think like all movement is good movement, and it's okay to start at the beginner rides or the beginner walks even, I think just getting out there and moving our body as much as possible is the best thing that we can do for, yes, our cardiovascular health, but as we get older for our bone health, staying flexible, because we know as we get older, we're more at risk for falling and all of those things. So I think that just the more mobile we can be, the better. And not to I know it's hard not to, but we don't need to compare ourselves to everybody else and what level that they're at. And it's okay to be a beginner.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good advice.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find you in all the places if you would like to be found.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. So on TikTok, that's probably where I'm most active. I'm at Jenny Lanae, so JennyLanae. And then on Instagram, it's Jenn Lanae, because Jenny Lanae was taken. So it's JennyLanae. So yeah, come and find me. I'd love to meet more of our Peloton community.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. This was super fun.
It was.
So that brings this episode to a close. Until next week, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. They can find me on all the other socials and the leaderboard at Clip Out Crystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon, where we're going to go have a whole other episode created for you at patreon.com/The Clip Out. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pedaling
and running
and rolling.